Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Angela, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about the difference between private equity and investment banking. So buy side versus sell side. What's the difference? In today's video, we are going to be talking about the difference between job function, pay, and hours. So without further ado, let's get straight into the video. So whenever you hear of the word sell side, think investment banking. Investment banks are the ones who sell securities and companies to the buy side, their clients. And whenever you hear of the word buy side, think private equity. Hedge funds, private equity firms, pension funds, VCs, they're the ones who are buying the securities and the companies. So first, let's dig into the job function. In investment banking, you do not invest, nor is it a bank, so the name is very confusing. And what that means is that at the end of it, it's an advisory role. You are likely working on about 10 different accounts or companies at once. And these companies will have reached out to your investment bank for a multitude of reasons, ranging from IPOs to M&A, to financings, and the majority of your work will consist of financial modeling, cranking out memos, and submitting it for a variety of purposes. As a result, in investment banking, you're constantly churning through so much work at once that you become really fast at what you do from all the repetition, and you get a good idea of how different types of transactions work, particularly if you are in an industry group like industrials or healthcare or technology. There's a much bigger focus on speed and finishing as many deals as possible, and that's how the investment banking division generates money, through the fees from each of these deals. On the other hand, you have private equity. So in private equity, you're no longer advising a client. You are the client. You're the buy side. As a junior person in private equity, rather than servicing 10 companies at once, instead, you're looking at a couple of them and really digging into their business models. In private equity, you're looking at things from the perspective of an investor. You can liken it to someone who is buying a house and taking out a mortgage for it and wants to make a return on it. So when you're working from the perspective of an investor, the financial models that you're doing, it becomes a lot more about accuracy rather than speed. You have a limited amount of cash to invest in, and it's a lot more important for you to get the investment right rather than invest in a bunch of companies at once that you're not very sure about. For example, in investment banking, we would often just project out the revenue based on an average of the previous few years. However, in private equity, you can't just do that. You have to really examine the drivers of the revenue, which takes a lot more analysis and therefore a lot more time. Next, let's talk about pay. On salary, it really varies based on when you join private equity. I'd say about 50 to 60% of those in private equity have had prior investment banking experience. If you join 2 years out of investment banking, that is the time between a second year and a third year investment banking analyst, your pay will likely increase when you join as a private equity associate on the base salary level. This is because as a third year investment banking analyst, you'll likely be earning around 110K, whereas when you join as a private equity associate, your base salary will likely be around 120 to 150K. Now, if you're joining private equity as an associate in investment banking, first-year associates generally earn around 175K, whereas your base salary in private equity will likely be more around 150K. This, of course, varies from private equity fund to private equity fund, but this is just the general norm. The bonus element at a PE firm tends to be comparable to that of an investment bank on a junior level. Pay will really depend on which fund you're at. For example, associates at middle market and smaller private equity funds generally tend to earn less than their mega fund counterparts. And at times, compensation can be even lower than investment banking associate pay, especially considering all of the pay raises this past year. However, the real advantage in private equity pay comes from carried interest. This generally only becomes available as you move up the principal and partner levels in private equity. The bottom line is that yes, the pay ceiling is higher in private equity. A lot of people join because they feel that the pay is higher, and there are managing directors and partners in private equity who are earning way more than the ones in investment banking. However, there isn't necessarily a a huge difference in the junior to mid-level roles unless you happen to get carry and get to participate in the deals that your fund is investing in. Next, let's talk about hours. So people often like to argue that the lifestyle in private equity is better than in investment banking, and that's a core reason for a lot of people to join. However, again, this can vary a lot based on which fund you're at. Generally, if you want to work at a mega fund like Blackstone, KKR, Apollo, you can still expect to be working banking hours or even later hours. However, there are also a lot of funds where the hours nearly aren't as bad, and this is the case for a lot of middle market private equity firms in which you can generally expect to get off around 7 to 9 p.m. However, the actual workday itself will usually be very busy and stressful. In private equity, you should expect to work less on the weekends as compared to investment banking, and this is because it is no longer a client role. You are servicing yourself, and so not everything is as urgent and your firm doesn't need to pander to client demands as much. However, regardless of the private equity firm size, if you are working on a very active live deal, you can expect late nights, weekend works, a lot of scrambling in a similar respect to how it is in investment banking. Finally, you should keep in mind that better hours doesn't necessarily mean a 40-hour work week. It likely means you're working somewhere from 60 to 70 hours on average rather than 70 to 80 in investment banking. And beyond that, if you're interested in learning more about the recruiting process for investment banking or private equity, I've made a ton of videos on those on my channel. I will link them in the description box below for your reference. And in terms of study resources for both of them, there are typically a lot more resources online for investment banking than private equity. One provider I strongly recommend is Financial Edge. They actually train the new joiners for the top 4 investment banks, and they have courses on investment banking, private equity, sales and trading, so on and so forth. So if you're interested in a career in finance, I'd strongly recommend checking out their channel and taking a look at their courses. They're kind enough to give my subscribers a code Angela25 for 25% off any of their courses, so go check it out. Link will be in my description box below. And beyond that, even if you're not interested in either investment banking or private equity or finance in general, I still strongly believe that everyone should at least understand the basics of business accounting. One course that's a great crash course for beginners can be found on Skillshare. For those who don't know, Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of inspiring classes for creators. The course is called Understanding Financial Statements, and it's taught by the CEO of Skillshare, Matt Cooper. He gives you a crash course on the 3 essential financial spreadsheets: income statements, balance sheets, and cash flow statements. The first 1,000 subscribers to click the link down in the description box below will get a free 1-month trial to a premium membership, which gives you unlimited access to all of their classes. And lastly, if you're interested in one-on-one consultation services with me, interview questions and answers, and a Discord chat, you should go and check out my Patreon at patreon.com/AngelaSunX3. Everything that I talked about in this video will be linked down in the description box below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please remember to give this video a huge thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And I will see you in the next video. Bye!